suppose in January as we sat down,
are you all right?
yeah. I suppose in January as we sat down and we talked about it, it certainly wasn't at the point you were talking about. I had made a commitment to the confidentiality of a federal situation, and as we sat down and got a little bit of guidance as to how we could have done it better, I think that was probably the point in time.
January 13th. We can't get into that right now. That's a detail in the case. I'm sorry, you can't answer that one.
Jim, how is that upholding the confidentiality if he's forwarding the email?
Again, we can't talk about that particular part of the case because that's still a part of the NCAA piece. As you know, we did several interviews, and the content of the interviews, and you're asking content of the interviews, whereas Rusty's question was a different one. You're asking content of the interviews that the NCAA has, and they're making decisions on whether they support what we put in our self-report. So I can't allow him to publicly talk about the content of the interviews. So I don't mean to be disrespectful, but that's why I had to cut it off.
At some point in time, yeah, I think so. Not to the degree that I thought about their safety and the seriousness of the big picture. As I said at the outset, I probably did not give it the amount of thought from the eligibility standpoint that it deserved. I think that your number one critic is yourself, and so you spend time thinking about how you can do things better. I don't think less of myself at this moment. I felt at the time as if I was doing the right thing for the safety of the young people and the overall situation. So, no, I really haven't given much thought to people outside of here.
We work with our consultant, the compliance group, and we look at precedents, look at cases that occurred over the years, and try and come, frankly, to a kind of a sweet spot that's based upon this particular case, because all cases aren't exactly the same. So when we looked at it, we just felt like a combination of the 2-game suspensions with a financial fine was kind of in line with cases that we were familiar with in the past relative to football. No, that's part of the process, Tim. It's just that right now they have our self-report, and even though they've worked with us all the way collaboratively to this point, they still get the self-report. They deliberate within their team to determine if they are supportive of the sanctions that we've levied, and if they agree with the exact bylaw that we have said that the violation occurred in. They may have a difference of opinion. So we hope that they don't, but that could occur.
Well, I think that, first of all, I'm a university president of 30 years. I have a number of issues that I have had in the past that are ones that I've learned from, and I think that Jim is just like all the rest of us. I think that he continues to learn, and the main thing, though, and the point that I was making is a very simple one, and that is the fact that if one takes a look at him, his integrity, and the body of his work, it is really quite remarkable. One of the things you also have to understand is the fact that I have been president of 5 different institutions. I understand college football, not from X's and O's, but I understand it from the way that they operate. The integrity of this program and the integrity of this coach is absolutely superb. And so I feel very confident in saying that we have followed the rules in terms of making this case are putting this case in perspective, and also that we have all learned from this, and I feel very confident in the coach himself.
In this case?
No, are you kidding? Let me just be very clear I'm just hopeful the coach just doesn't dismiss me. So and the point that I'm making is the fact that that was never an issue here. The issue was how did we get to this, and what was his and how did he understand it? And again, I want to explain to you. I spent 3 hours. Jim and I had a very candid conversation. I asked him questions that probably none of you would even dare ask, and we have been through everything to make certain that there is never any kind of smoking gun. There is none, and we're just moving on from there.
Yeah, with the way we did this, which is kind of different in way most cases are done by having the NCAA involved early. We're hoping that the process will move expeditiously, faster than the normal cycle. So I can't speculate on when it will be. I think it'll move faster than what cases like this historically have moved at. And yes, there could be sanctions that the NCAA feel that we need to levy, and then we'll work with them on those and go from there. So that's a possibility always.
I was asked by the person that sent it, who was an attorney. Yeah. Correct. I had no interaction with federal authorities. Well, I was in a situation where you've got two guys who can play, who are out there doing the practicing, and they're eligible and all those things. And there was another situation going on, and in my mind it was larger than anything, and so as not to disrupt that, as I mentioned, a focus of mine was to not interfere with the federal investigation. And so if you all of a sudden sit down some players that have earned the opportunity to play, there's a whole new set of questions, I think, that arise.
Did you have the sense?
Well, yeah, I did. And I thought it would do so in the order of which, the hierarchy of which things would occur. And as I mentioned to you, when December came, I was disappointed that there were so many more than two, but I was relieved that there was no federal criminal drug trafficking or any other part of the puzzle.
You can't get into that one as well. I can't talk about that one. That's the content of the interviews that we had with the NCAA, so we can't get into that. I'm sorry. No, I would disagree with you. I believe the other investigation was thorough enough relative to those student athletes and that particular case. If you're referring to Jim Tressel and not disclosing and thinking that we should have uncovered that, that to me that's totally separate, and that's what he's talked about. But relative to interviewing all of our other former players, working with the federal investigators on that particular case relative to our current and former players, where many of you were floating names out there that we tracked as well. I feel good about that one. And so, but this one is separate, and there's no way we would have disclosed, would have figured this out if we, at the end of the day, hadn't, had that opportunity. Now, we talked long and hard about our practice of being expeditious, swift, and responsive to the NCAA, and not acting like other institutions across this country that take forever to investigate. I'm never going to go there. And so we feel comfortable that with the student athletes, we found everything that involves them.
No. You know, I felt an obligation because I could feel in the email that the person had genuine concern for the well-being of our kids and for the gravity of a federal criminal drug trafficking ongoing investigation. So I guess I felt that they were trusting me to think that that was important to keep that confidentiality. The atmosphere inside the locker room? Well, we had a 6 a.m. workout this morning, and you know, as I mentioned to you, the only thing I talked to them about was what I shared with you. They worked extremely hard. You know, they're a very close bunch that care for one another. They feel as if they're cared for. I don't think the group as a whole feels as if we're perfect, and I'm sure they don't think the people that are caring for them are perfect. But I think they're united, if you will, with the desire to learn from mistakes and to move forward and do well.
Okay. We thank everybody for coming. Appreciate it. Thank you.